The banquet hall of the orbital palace was so enormous that the ceiling had its own weather. Silver clouds drifted beneath the transparent dome, carrying tiny artificial moons that changed color according to diplomatic mood. At that moment, most of them were anxious purple, which I assumed was either a political warning or simply the palace's opinion of my jacket. I stood between three floating tables, holding a plate full of food I could not identify, while every ambassador in the known spiral arm appeared to have already found a seat. The table closest to me was occupied by insectoid ministers, clicking through trade agreements. The next one had 7 blue admirals who stared at me as if humans were something usually kept in sealed containers. The third table contained a creature made entirely of liquid glass, and frankly, I did not know which side of it was the face. "Seat assignment?" asked the service drone hovering beside my shoulder. I was hoping for the ancient diplomatic technique called finding an empty chair. The drone blinked. "Searching database. Technique not recognized." "That explains politics," I muttered. My name was Daniel Arvin, civilian engineer, temporary consultant, and currently the only human in the Imperial Banquet Hall who looked like he had wandered into history by following the smell of roasted nebula fish. I had been invited because I helped repair a damaged gravity gate near Earth's embassy. In my mind, that earned me a polite handshake, maybe a certificate. Apparently, in the Veyrathi Empire, it earned me ceremonial food, crystal shoes that pinched my toes, and 1,000 strangers judging my walking speed. I moved carefully past a noblewoman with golden skin and 4 elegant arms. She smiled at me until I nearly stepped on the tail of her bodyguard. The bodyguard hissed. I bowed. My plate tilted. A small purple fruit rolled off and bounced across the polished floor, like it had diplomatic immunity. Wonderful. 5 minutes inside the greatest peace banquet of the century, and I had already started an interstellar fruit migration. Then the hall grew quiet, not gradually, not politely. It fell silent as if someone had switched off the universe. At the highest table, beneath an arch of living starlight, Princess Aelira of Veyrath rose from her seat. I had seen her once before from a distance, during the opening ceremony. She looked almost human, with calm eyes, graceful features, and long dark hair threaded with silver ornaments. Only her ears marked her as something older than humanity's maps. Long, elegant, slightly curved, catching the golden light like delicate blades of moonstone. She wore no heavy crown, only a narrow circlet above her brow, but every person in the hall lowered their gaze when she moved, except me. I was too busy wondering whether my runaway fruit had stopped near her table. The princess descended the crystal steps. Her guards followed one pace behind, armored in white metal that hummed softly with contained energy. 1,000 eyes shifted from her to me, then back again. I looked over my shoulder, hoping there was someone important behind me. There was only the service drone. "Is she coming toward you?" it whispered. Drones can whisper? I installed the function for gossip. Before I could answer, Princess Aelira stopped in front of me. The artificial moons above us brightened from anxious purple to stunned gold. Her gaze lowered briefly to my plate, where my dinner trembled like it knew more than I did. "You are looking for a seat," she said. Her voice was soft, but the hall carried it everywhere. "Yes," I replied, because lying to royalty while holding alien vegetables seemed like a poor life strategy, preferably one that doesn't require a military escort. For one impossible second, amusement touched her face. Then she extended her hand. I stared at it. Behind her, an elderly minister made a sound like a kettle losing hope. The princess took my hand gently, as if the decision had already been made long before I entered the hall. Her fingers were warm. Her expression remained calm, almost kind, while the empire around us forgot how to breathe. "You'll sit here," she said, in Andy Yuan, Isasi, and Serenani, Yishur, Isai. She led me toward the royal table, Wadarin, Isai Nyanurahain. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the floating service drones froze in place, their trays suspended in midair. I walked beside her, aware of every stare striking my back like tiny laser pointers. My crystal shoes clicked too loudly. My plate wobbled. Somewhere behind me, the gossip drone whispered, "Congratulations, probably." I leaned closer to the princess and murmured, "I feel I should mention that on Earth, this usually just means someone saved a chair." Aelira's smile deepened, small and secret. "In Veyrath," she said, "it means more." That was when every anxious moon above the banquet hall turned red. The red moons above the banquet hall pulsed once, then twice, as if the palace itself had developed a nervous heartbeat. Princess Aelira did not release my hand. That seemed important, mostly because several ministers looked ready to faint directly into their soup. The royal table was shaped like a crescent of black crystal, floating slightly above the floor. Every chair around it looked less like furniture and more like a throne that had been worn not to show off. Aelira guided me to the seat beside hers. It adjusted to my height with a soft mechanical sigh, which was more respect than I usually received from chairs. I sat down very carefully. The hall remained silent. I leaned toward the princess. Is this the part where everyone continues eating and pretends I didn't just commit furniture treason? Her long ears tilted slightly, and her mouth curved with quiet amusement. No. Wonderful. Always nice when panic is properly scheduled. An elderly minister in silver robes stepped forward. His face had gone pale enough to be legally classified as moonlight. "Your Highness," he said, voice trembling, "do you understand the implication of what you have done?" Aelira folded her hands before her plate. "I understand perfectly, Minister Valen." I did not. My understanding was standing far away, waving goodbye. The service drone that had followed me hovered behind my shoulder. "Would you like an explanation packet?" "Yes," I whispered. It projected a glowing document in front of my face. The title appeared in severe imperial letters. The Ancient Right of Seated Trust and Companion Recognition. I blinked. That title has too many dangerous words. The drone scrolled helpfully. Summary: when a royal heir personally takes another individual by the hand and seats them beside the royal body during a diplomatic banquet, the chosen person is recognized as a trusted companion. That sounds survivable. The drone scrolled lower. Subsection 9, trusted companion may be interpreted by conservative houses as political equal, royal protector, spiritual confidant, or, I slapped the projection away, stop reading. Across the table, a blue-skinned admiral whispered something to another officer. 6 nobles immediately began typing on crystal tablets. Somewhere in the distance, a diplomatic journalist dropped a recording orb into her drink and did not notice. Minister Valen turned his sharp gaze toward me. "Human Daniel Arvin, did you request this honor?" "I requested a chair." A low murmur rolled through the hall. He narrowed his eyes. A symbolic answer. No, a back support answer. Aelira lowered her gaze, hiding a laugh behind her cup. The sound was small, almost private, but the effect was catastrophic. Half the royal guard stared at me as if I had made the sun sneeze. Valen raised his ceremonial staff. "The archive must be consulted. The witnesses must be recorded. The old custom is binding." "Binding?" I asked. "Can we downgrade it to mildly suggestive?" The princess finally looked at me fully. Her eyes were silver green, calm as deep orbit. "You are afraid." I'm human. We become afraid when menus have footnotes. That earned another quiet smile from her, but beneath it I saw something else. Weariness, carefully hidden under royal discipline. She had not chosen me by accident. That realization settled into my chest with more weight than the entire palace. A circular platform rose beside the royal table, and an ancient machine unfolded from it. It was made of gold-black metal, engraved with symbols that seemed to shift whenever I looked directly at them. A lens opened at its center like an eye waking from a 1,000-year nap. "Witness engine active," it announced. Ambassador stood. Nobles argued, translated flesh warnings in 12 languages. One insectoid delegate clicked so rapidly that his speech device overheated and began playing cheerful banquet music. I leaned back in my adaptive throne chair. "This is bad, isn't it?" Aelira picked up a small silver fruit and placed it on my plate. "That depends." "On what?" "Whether you can survive dessert." Before I could decide if she was joking, the witness engine projected my face above the banquet hall, 30 meters tall and badly lit. Beneath it appeared a line of ancient imperial script. The drone translated in a solemn whisper. "Daniel Arvin of Earth, chosen beside the princess, recognized by right." Every eye turned toward me again. I lifted one hand awkwardly. "For the record, I still don't know where the bathrooms are." For the first time that evening, laughter broke through the fear. It started somewhere near the lower tables, spread among the younger officers, then even touched a few diplomats who clearly hated themselves for enjoying it. Princess Aelira watched the hall soften, if only for a breath. Then the palace lights flickered. Far above us, one artificial moon went dark. The moon that went dark did not fall. It simply hung above the banquet hall like a dead eye, swallowing the golden glow around it. For a moment, no one cared about me, the chair, or the ancient rite. Every face lifted toward the dome, and even the insectoid ministers stopped clicking, which I took as a bad sign because they seemed like people who clicked through funerals. Then the palace corrected itself. Light returned in a soft pulse, pretending nothing had happened. "That was normal?" I asked. Princess Aelira looked up, her long ears catching the returning shimmer. "No, I was afraid you'd say that." Minister Valen immediately struck his staff against the crystal floor. "A temporary atmospheric lighting failure. The banquet will proceed." A service drone drifted past us carrying glowing desserts. In palace terminology, temporary means someone has already started lying. I turned to it. "Are all drones here this comforting?" "No, I am considered unusually cheerful." Aelira glanced at the drone as if deciding whether to laugh or have it reassigned to an asteroid. She chose laughter, though only barely. Around us, the guests resumed speaking, but the hall had changed. Conversations became thinner, quieter, edged with calculation. I could feel eyes returning to me again, not merely curious now, but hungry. Within minutes, rumors began moving faster than the serving machines. Crystal tablets lit up across the banquet. Diplomatic aides whispered into wristcoms. A floating news orb, pretending to be part of the decoration, rotated until its lens faced me. "Human Daniel Arvin," it announced softly. "Is it true you saved the princess from a quantum assassin in secret?" I stared at it. "I once saved a toaster from burning bread." The orb paused. "Hero refuses to discuss classified rescue." "No, that's not what." It zipped away before I could finish. Across the table, Aelira calmly cut into a silver I noticed they turned sentences into crimes. They turned silence into marriage contracts. I nearly dropped my fork. "Please tell me that was a joke." Her expression remained royal and unreadable for 3 seconds too long. Then she smiled. "Mostly." Before I could recover, a group of nobles approached the royal table. Their leader was tall and narrow, with polished black hair, pale skin, and robes embroidered with tiny moving constellations. His eyes rested on me the way a scientist might examine mold that had learned to dance. "Princess Aelira," he said, bowing. "House Orveth offers congratulations on your unexpected selection." The word selection arrived wrapped in poison. Aelira inclined her head. "Lord Sereth, your courtesy is as sharp as ever, and your choices as mysterious." His gaze shifted to me. "Human, what rank do you hold among your people?" "Currently, guest with digestive concerns." One of his companions blinked. Sereth did not. "Military rank?" "None." "Noble blood?" "My uncle owns a repair garage in Ohio." The service drone whispered. "A powerful clan? Only during tax season." Aelira lifted her cup to hide her smile again. Sereth's jaw tightened slightly. He had expected pride, perhaps ambition. Unfortunately for him, I had arrived equipped only with confusion and a plate of suspicious vegetables. "How fascinating," he said. "A man of no house, no command, no planetary title, seated beside the heir of Veyrath." "When you say it like that," I replied, "it does sound like someone made a clerical error." The temperature around the table seemed to drop. Aelira set her cup down, and the tiny ornaments in her dark hair chimed softly. There was no error. For the first time, Sereth's confidence flickered. Her voice did not rise, yet every nearby conversation faded. "I took his hand before the witnesses of the Empire. The Rite has recognized him." Sereth bowed again, but the movement was stiff. "Then, the Empire will wonder why." He left with his nobles trailing behind him like shadows. I exhaled. "He seems pleasant. Does he do children's parties?" "He leads a faction that believes Earth should remain politically isolated." "Ah, so no balloons." Alira's face softened, but only for a moment. "You should know something, Daniel. By morning, every system in the Empire will know your name." Above the hall, the restored moon flickered once more. This time, no one else noticed. But I did. So did Aelira. And somewhere deep beneath the banquet floor, something old answered with a low metallic hum. The metallic hum beneath the banquet floor lasted only a breath. but it traveled through my bones like a warning spoken in a language older than sound. The crystal table trembled. My silver fruit rolled toward Princess Aelira's cup, bumped it politely, and stopped. Even the fruit seemed to have better manners than the nobles. Aelira's eyes narrowed. The lower archive has awakened. That sounds like something people should say while running away. It has not awakened in 700 years. Then I strongly support running away with historical respect. Before she could answer, Minister Valen hurried back to the royal table, robes fluttering, face tighter than a sealed airlock. Your Highness, the archive doors have opened without command. The witness engine is requesting full ancestral verification. The service drone leaned near my ear. Is it rare? Also terrible. You're really committed to morale. I was programmed by palace staff. Aelira stood. The hall grew uneasy again, guests rising in waves as royal guards formed a protective ring. Her long ears tilted slightly, listening to something I could not hear. For the first time since she had taken my hand, her calm expression cracked, not with fear, but recognition. Daniel, she said quietly, come with me. I looked at the entire diplomatic banquet, staring at us. Is there a version where I stay here and bravely guard the dessert? No. Cruel empire. We left the royal table through a curtain of holographic stars. Behind us, the banquet's anxious murmurs swelled like storm water. Aelira's guards marched around us, their white armor glowing with blue defensive lines. One guard, broad as a refrigerator and twice as judgmental, glanced at me. If danger appears, stand behind us. I planned to stand behind everyone. Good. The princess led us into a corridor that curved along the palace's inner ring. Outside the transparent wall, the planet Veyroth gleamed below, oceans black under twin suns, cities shining like constellations trapped on land. Deep inside the floor, ancient mechanisms continued to move. We reached a sealed archway guarded by two statues of winged machines. Their stone eyes opened as we approached. Royal blood recognized, one statue said. Unknown companion recognized, said the other. I raised a hand. I prefer Daniel. Unknown Daniel recognized. Aelira actually laughed, short and bright, and some of the guards looked startled enough to file a report. Then the arch split open, revealing an elevator made of light. We stepped inside, and the banquet vanished above us. The descent was silent at first. Then, symbols ignited around the walls. Old imperial script, star maps, genetic lines, ancient battles. Aelira watched them with solemn focus. I watched them too, pretending I understood anything besides the universal symbol for danger, which appeared far too often. Why did you choose me? I asked at last. She did not answer immediately. Her reflection hovered beside mine, in the glowing wall. Almost human, yet not human at all. Elegant, distant, carrying the burden of 1,000 years in her eyes. Because when everyone else watched the throne, she said, you watched the room. I was looking for a chair. You noticed the service paths, the guards' blind angles, the malfunctioning moon before the ministers did. That was mostly because the moon turned off. And you joked while afraid. Fear did not make you cruel. The elevator slowed. That is an imperial qualification? It should be. The doors opened into a vast underground archive. Rows of crystalline pillars stretched into darkness, each containing suspended memories, battles, coronations, treaties, betrayals. At the center stood the witness engine's larger body, a colossal machine shaped like a sleeping crown. Its eye opened. Ancient right confirmed, it thundered. Companion selection accepted. Minister Valen, who had somehow followed in another elevator, nearly collapsed. Accepted for what? The machine's gaze fixed on me. Protection protocol. My stomach sank. I knew the chair was too comfortable. Then every crystal pillar turned red, and a hidden voice whispered through the archive, unauthorized air detected. The words unauthorized air detected echoed through the archive, and every royal guard immediately pointed weapons in 12 different directions, which did not comfort me because none of those directions looked especially unauthorized. Aelira stepped closer to the sleeping crown machine. Its red light painted her face like fire, making her long ears glow at the edges. Identify the heir. The ancient machine hesitated. That was never good. Machines should not hesitate unless they are printers, and even then, it means suffering. Lineage mask active, it replied. Royal signature concealed within the palace network. Minister Valen, pressed a trembling hand to his chest. Impossible. All royal bloodlines are recorded. The service drone hovered beside me. Historically, people say impossible immediately before documents prove them foolish. Do you ever get invited to parties twice? No. The archive floor split open in a circle, revealing a holographic model of the orbital palace. Thousands of tiny blue lights marked guests, guards, engines, kitchens, and maintenance shafts. One red spark flickered near the banquet hall, then vanished. Aelira's eyes sharpened. Someone is hiding among the delegates. And the ancient chair ritual found them? I asked. The rite activated the protection protocol. It chose a companion before the threat revealed itself. I lifted both hands. Small correction. You chose me. The chair framed me. For one heartbeat, her serious expression broke. You are blaming furniture. I respect powerful enemies, but I fear comfortable chairs. The crown machine projected a new image, Lord Sareth, his constellation robes shimmering as he spoke with ambassadors near the banquet entrance. Beside him stood a quiet attendant wearing a silver mask. The unauthorized heir is near House Orveth, the machine said. Valen went rigid. Sareth would never shelter a false claimant. His house is proud, arrogant, exhausting at dinner, yes, but not treasonous. I looked at him. That was the nicest insult I've heard all evening. Aelira moved toward the exit. We returned to the banquet. The archive suddenly sealed every door with walls of red light. Negative, thundered the machine. Companion verification incomplete. I froze. Sorry, my what? A platform rose beneath my feet before I could escape. Rings of light spun around me, scanning my body from boots to hair. A diagram of my skeleton appeared above us, which felt rude without medical consent. Human biological structure, fragile. Hey, combat enhancements. None. Double hay. Survival probability. Concerning. The drone floated closer. It is being generous. I pointed at it. You are one software update away from becoming a toaster. The machine continued. Required test. Judgment under uncertainty. The archive shifted. The crystal pillars darkened, then displayed 3 possible paths through the palace. One through crowded diplomatic halls, one through maintenance ducts, one through the royal security vault. Each route pulsed with danger warnings. Aelira watched me carefully. The archive wants you to choose. Excellent. My specialty is being unqualified in public. I studied the routes. The diplomatic halls were obvious, too visible. The vault was fortified, which meant anyone clever would expect us there. The maintenance ducts flickered with old gravity lines, waste pipes, and drone access tunnels. Ugly, ignored, practical. I pointed. There. Maintenance path. Valen looked horrified. Royalty does not crawl through ducts. Aelira glanced at her shining gown, then at me. How narrow. The service drone answered, humiliatingly. For the first time that night, the princess laughed without hiding it. Then we used the ducts. The archive's red light softened to gold. Judgment accepted. The doors opened. We hurried upward through a side lift barely large enough for dignity. When it opened behind a banquet kitchen, steam rolled over us. Chef drones spun in panic, preparing diplomatic desserts shaped like miniature galaxies. Aelira stepped out first, calm and royal. I followed, immediately slipping on spilled blue sauce and grabbing a tray for balance. One chef drone screamed, "The companion has attacked the pudding." Aelira took my hand again before I could fall. Still afraid? Mostly of dessert now. Then beyond the kitchen wall, hidden voices whispered. Lord Sareth's voice was among them, cold and low. "When the moon fails again," he said, "the princess will be removed from succession." Aelira's fingers tightened around mine, but she did not move. Through the kitchen wall, Lord Sareth's voice continued, smooth as poisoned silk. The archive will recognize the masked bloodline when the palace moon grid collapses. In the confusion, the council will demand a stronger heir. Minister Valen looked as if someone had replaced his bones with cold noodles. "He found a hidden royal descendant," I whispered. "Is that bad?" The service drone hovered closer. In monarchies, surprise relatives are rarely relaxing. Aelira released my hand and touched the wall. Blue light spread beneath her palm, revealing a hidden seam. The moon grid controls more than decoration. It stabilizes the diplomatic shield above the palace. If it fails, every ship outside will think we are under attack. So one broken mood lamp starts a war, several wars. Your interior design has consequences. The princess pressed 2 fingers to her ear and silently ordered her guards through the royal channel. Then she looked at me, her long ears sharp against the steam and neon kitchen glow. "Daniel, we need the maintenance core before Sareth reaches the grid chamber." I glanced at the nearest duct, a narrow silver opening behind a stack of glowing dessert trays. Of course, the Empire depends on crawling. Aelira gathered her elegant gown without complaint and climbed in first. Valen gasped so dramatically that a chef drone tried to season him. I followed, then the service drone squeezed in behind me. "Warning," it said. "Human shoulders inefficient. Your personality is inefficient." We crawled through the palace's hidden veins while the banquet roared faintly beyond the walls. Gravity cables hummed beside us. Tiny repair spiders skittered past, carrying sparks in their metal mouths. Every few meters, transparent panels showed impossible views. Ambassadors arguing, guards shifting, artificial moons flickering red and gold above the hall. Aelira moved ahead with surprising ease. "You chose this path. I regret many things. You said ugly, ignored, practical. I was describing my university apartment." She laughed, and the sound softened the dark duct more than the emergency lights did. We reached a junction overlooking the moon grid chamber. Below, a circular room pulsed with silver machinery. Hundreds of miniature moons floated in magnetic rings, each connected to the palace shield. Lord Sareth stood at the central console with the masked attendant. The attendant removed the silver mask. She was young, pale, and frightened, with the same long ears as Aelira. Valen sucked in a breath. "By the founders." Aelira went still. "Liora, you know her?" I whispered. "My cousin. She was declared dead as a child." Below, Sareth placed a hand on Leora's shoulder. "The throne denied you. Tonight, the archive will correct history." Leora's voice trembled. "You said no one would be hurt." "They never do," I muttered. "Villains should be legally required to give honest brochures." Aelira looked at me, and for the first time I saw pain under her control. "She is not the enemy. Then we save her and stop the man with the evil robe collection." The service drone projected a maintenance map. "Manual override is located under the chamber. Access requires someone small, fearless, or foolish." Everyone looked at me. I hate democracy. Minutes later, I dropped from the duct into a crawlspace beneath the chamber floor. Heat blasted my face. The override panel blinked in ancient script. Above me, Sareth began the collapse sequence, and one by one, the moons outside the chamber dimmed. Aelira's voice came through an "Daniel, can you read the panel?" "No, but I recognize the universal symbol for do not touch, so naturally I'm touching that first." The floor shook. Alarms screamed. I pulled open the panel and saw 3 glowing cores spinning in opposite directions. My Earth repair instincts woke up, mostly offended by the bad wiring. Sareth shouted above. "The old right chose a human nobody. Let the Empire see true blood." I grabbed 2 cables and crossed them. The palace lights exploded into brilliant blue. The service drone yelled, "Unusual method detected. On Earth we call it fixing." The moon grid stabilized. The shield held. In the chamber above, Aelira dropped from the duct like a blade of starlight, landing between Sareth and Liora. "True blood does not need lies," she said, and behind her, every artificial moon turned toward Sareth, like accusing eyes. The moon grid stabilized with a final deep hum, like a giant machine exhaling after holding its breath for too long. The red warning lights dissolved into calm silver, and for a moment the entire chamber looked almost peaceful, if one ignored the armed guards, the collapsing conspiracy, and the fact that I was still hanging halfway out of a maintenance hatch. I pulled myself fully into the chamber just as Lord Sareth stepped back, realizing the system he had tried to break was now obeying someone else entirely. The artificial moons above us realigned in perfect symmetry, and their light fell directly on him like judgment that had learned mathematics. "That's impossible," he muttered. "A human cannot override a royal lattice." I brushed dust off my sleeve. "To be fair, I also struggle with toasters." The service drone floated beside me. "Correction, you struggle emotionally with toasters. Thank you for documenting my failures." Aelira stood between Sareth and Liora, her posture calm but unshakable. For the first time, I noticed how the entire chamber seemed to adjust itself around her presence, as if the palace itself was waiting for permission to breathe. Liora trembled. Aelira, I didn't know what they told me was false. They said the palace abandoned me. Aelira stepped closer and gently touched her cousin's shoulder. They didn't abandon you. They hid you. That sounds worse, I whispered. Valen, now sweating like a man negotiating with gravity itself, corrected me instantly. It is significantly worse. Sareth tried to activate a secondary override, but the console rejected him with a polite chime, and the message, access denied, bad vibes detected. Even ancient imperial systems apparently had opinions. You don't understand, Sareth snapped. The Empire is unstable. The royal line is weakened. I was restoring balance. I pointed at him. You tried to reboot a civilization like it was a malfunctioning tablet. He stared at me. A what? Never mind, your era is showing. Aelira raised her hand, and the chamber's holographic archive unfolded around us. Millions of recorded royal lines, treaties, and forgotten histories spiraled through the air like glowing rivers. Balance is not control, she said. And legitimacy is not something you fabricate when you get impatient. The system echoed her words, as if agreeing was part of its job description. Sareth lowered his gaze, but there was no triumph in it anymore, only exhaustion. Then what am I? Aelira paused, not with hesitation, but with consideration. Someone who forgot that empires survive longer when they listen instead of rewrite. That landed harder than any weapon. The guards moved forward, but Aelira raised one finger, stopping them. Exile him, not execution. I blinked. That's unexpectedly merciful for a galactic crisis. She glanced at me. We are trying your method. My method? You fix the palace by crossing wires. Still feels like you're oversimplifying my career. Sareth was taken away without resistance. The chamber slowly released its tension, like a machine finally convinced it would not explode today. Then Aelira turned toward Liora. You are not hidden anymore. Liora nodded slowly, tears catching the moonlight. I don't know what I am supposed to do now. I raised a hand slightly. If it helps, most people don't know that part. The drone added, statistically accurate. Aelira smiled faintly. You will choose. Silence settled, softer this time. Later, the palace returned to the banquet hall, now calmer, almost shy. The diplomatic guests looked at me differently, not as an accident, but as a variable they had not yet learned how to calculate. The ancient witness engine retracted into the floor. Companion protocol complete, it announced. Outcome, stabilized future trajectory. I leaned toward it. Does that mean I can sit anywhere now without causing political events? Uncertain. Of course. Aelira walked beside me as the hall resumed its celebration, though more cautiously. Music returned in slow, careful waves. Conversations restarted like systems rebooting after a storm. You stayed, she said quietly. I tried leaving earlier. Your palace aggressively discouraged it. That is not what I mean. I looked at her, the long ears catching the soft light, the calm strength behind her gaze, the weight she carried without letting it crush anyone else. I didn't do anything special, I said. You did, she replied. You saw what others ignored. I thought about the ducks, the broken moons, the ancient machine, and the ridiculous chain of events that began with looking for an empty seat. On Earth, I said, we usually just call that bad planning. A soft laugh escaped her. Then, after a pause, would you sit beside me again? I looked at the royal table. Then at the empty chair that had once been my entire problem. Only if the chair behaves, I said. The service drone immediately replied, no guarantees. And for the first time since I arrived in a galaxy that turned seating arrangements into political prophecy, I realized something simple. I wasn't lost anymore. I had just been upgraded.
Okay, let's go.